What is going on, boys? Today we are going to be talking about how to build an aesthetic physique. We spend all of this time in the gym. We want to be getting the highest return on investment, and there's no higher ROI than looking aesthetic as fuck. To build the most aesthetic physique, you want to build that V-taper, and there's three main exercises we're going to be prioritizing. The first up on that list, and the number one exercise that I would do if I could only pick one for the rest of my life, is weighted pull-ups. Weighted pull-ups are the number one exercise for your lats. Not only that, but you're also going to be putting a ton of tension on your biceps. So overall, just a great exercise. The number one ratio that is the most important to build an aesthetic physique is your shoulder to waist ratio. Wider your shoulders are relative to how small your waist is, the more aesthetic physique you will have. Speaking of shoulders, the second exercise that we want to be focusing on is our shoulder press. I've seen this trend of people moving away from shoulder press because there's a lot of science that says you're also training your shoulders during bench press, incline press, and pretty much every other pressing movement. But if you want to build an aesthetic physique, you need to dedicate workouts to prioritizing your shoulder press. Prioritizing your shoulder press means you do it at the beginning of your workout. By training shoulder press at the beginning of your workout, you're going to be able to maximize the amount of weight that you push, maximize progressive overload, and build sick shoulders. And they've actually done studies where research shows that the most attractive muscle group to women is the shoulders. And the third exercise you want to be prioritizing is your lateral raises. If you get strong as fuck with weighted pull-ups, you get strong as fuck with shoulder press, and you get strong as fuck with lateral raises, you will have a sick physique. Since lateral raises train your medial delts are a smaller muscle group, so you can increase the amount of volume that you're doing because your CNS system is going to be able to recover. If you're actually serious about building an aesthetic physique, I recommend training these exercises 2 times minimum per week and 3 times maximum. Next up, if you want to build an aesthetic physique, is to lean max. Lean maxing simply means to optimize for staying lean year round. This idea that you need to bulk and get fat as fuck to build muscle is bullshit. I like to keep it as simple as possible when it comes to lean max. I'll do intermittent fasting in the morning and will save my first meal until about 2 to 3 p.m. And no, intermittent fasting alone is not going to get you shredded. It's not going to get you lean, but it's going to make being in a calorie surplus a lot more difficult. The less frequently you eat, the harder it is to be in a surplus for most people. For the first week, you can expect to be hungry, especially if your body isn't used to having breakfast every morning. My advice for dealing with this hunger is 1, don't be a fucking pussy. You're allowed to be hungry. And second is to drink sparkling water or coffee. The next protocol for lean maxing is to find 3 to 4 lean proteins and stick with them on a daily basis. I don't know if you've ever tried to be in a calorie surplus eating lean chicken breast, but I promise you it's pretty fucking hard. And the last protocol to lean max is getting 10,000 steps a day. All right, after lean maxing, we have to stop training like a pussy. The girl to my right trains like a pussy, which is why she looks the same year after year. But that's okay. She's not trying to build an aesthetic physique. She's not trying to get jacked. She's not trying to get shredded. And the truth is, she's not alone. Most people who go to the gym year after year after year look the exact same because they are not training to failure. They are not progressively overloading, and they are training like a pussy. And I know there's gonna be some in the comments saying, oh, I train hard enough, but I still don't look any different. The truth is, if you had a gun to your head and somebody told you to do another rep, you'd probably be able to do 5. For the first 3 to 4 years of my training, I was training like a pussy, which is why I barely made any progress. It wasn't until the last few years where I started training to failure, I stopped training like a pussy, where I maximized my gains, and I actually started to see real progress at a reasonable rate. The best protocol I can give you for not training like a pussy is training with a workout partner, training with somebody who is a little further on their journey, or hiring a personal trainer. One of the things that I do with all of my clients is I make sure that they're progressing on a weekly basis. But unless you have somebody holding you accountable to actually getting stronger by having an in-person workout partner or having a personal trainer that gives a fuck about your results, it's easy to go to the gym and half-ass it. And I promise you, if you just lock in for the next 3 to 4 months and fucking stop training like a pussy, you will make more progress than the next 3 to 4 years training like a bitch. Next up, you are going to want to stop skipping legs. The amount of personal trainers that I meet that are still skipping legs never fails to blow my mind. And if you know 10 guys that go to the gym, 7 of them probably skip legs. But there is nothing less aesthetic than when you have a great upper body, but it clearly shows that you do not train legs. Not only do you look like a bitch, but it's not very aesthetic. Get strong with your squats, get strong with your deadlifts. Not only are you gonna build an aesthetic physique, but you are going to make sure that you can continue to lift weights for as long as possible, stay mobile, stay healthy, and stay functional. And part of not training like a pussy is to train legs. Stop skipping your leg day. Now, for all of your workouts, for all of your exercises, the easiest way to make sure that you're progressively overloading and actually getting stronger on a weekly basis is to stick within the same rep ranges. If one week you're doing 5 reps, the next week you're doing 12 reps, the next week you're doing 8 reps, it's gonna be very difficult to know if you're actually progressing. But let's say you're doing shoulder press. If you do 10 reps with 60 pounds this week, it's going to be very easy to try to aim for 65 for 10 reps the next week. A big mistake people make when they first start in the gym is they change reps every week. Stick within the same rep ranges and try to get stronger weekly. Next up, you want to train at a real gym. Can you make progress by going to Planet Fitness? Sure, but are you going to make better progress if you join a bodybuilder gym where everybody's jacked, everybody's strong, everybody's pushing as hard as they possibly can? Absolutely. They've done research studies which have proven that you are the product of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, and that's not only outside of the gym, but it's inside as well. For me, I train at Muscle Factory, which is a bodybuilding gym in Bangkok. Everybody there is jacked, everybody there is shredded, everybody there is pushing as hard as they possibly can, and when you are in that environment, it is impossible to lose. And I have to go back to Canada to start training at Good Life, where people are there just kind of recreationally, they don't really give a fuck, and they're not actually pushing themselves. It becomes so much more difficult to actually push myself. So if it's within your means, it fits your lifestyle, and you can actually do it, train at a real gym. No disrespect to Planet Fitness, no disrespect to Good Life, but if you're serious about getting the results as fast as possible, do yourself a favor. And the last thing that you want to do to build an aesthetic physique is to train martial arts. Having an aesthetic physique isn't about building as much muscle as you possibly can. It's about looking functional and looking aesthetic. If the only thing that you do for the rest of your life is weightlifting, you're gonna be slow, you're gonna be stiff, and you're not going to be functional. And the amount of calories that you burn for one martial arts session is ridiculously high, and it doesn't even feel like it because you're having fun and you're learning a skill that you can use in real life. I recommend starting off with boxing because it's the most accessible no matter what city you're in. If you have Muay Thai, I would recommend that because you're just going to be a little bit more competent, a little bit more dangerous than the boxer. And by training martial arts consistently, you're going to make sure that you don't have that blocky bodybuilder look, which is not aesthetic. And I'm gonna give you guys some life advice, but there's no point of just looking dangerous if you're not actually dangerous. And that, boys, is how you build an aesthetic physique. Coaching applications are in the bio if you want to work one-on-one with me. Peace.